I'm the crazy person from North Carolina this year, so I guess it's the first, but thanks for having me. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Pendo, and Pendo is focused on helping people gain more insights into how people are experiencing their products and then actually improving the experience of those products. What makes a great product? You know, there's a classic, I was joking with my wife about how to create a slide talking about, I think some court talked about the porn test. It's like, we can't really define what it is, but we know it when we see it. I think it's a similar thing with a great product. There is no magic measure for it, but we all, when we experience something and it feels delightful, that's what makes a great product. And one of the challenges in being a product person, this is not only what I've been focused on for the past few years, but I've been working now with product people for years, is that most people consider it some sort of art form, that some people are just inherently born to produce amazing product and some are not. I mean, obviously we all talk about Apple as being the company that has clairvoyant product people that make things that are delightful, even when the new ones don't seem to be recognized faces, and maybe not. But all things aside, there's this general concept that you have to be an artist to do this, and the challenge is, I'm an engineer, I'm not an artist, and that's a kind of hard thing for my brain to wrap around. Just kind of hoping to pray that we find something magical in our products. Now the challenge is there's a lot of metrics out there. And in my space, if you wanted to measure a product or an interface, one of the oldest technologies we've used was something like Google Analytics, which is typically doing visits. It's free. Google put it out there. It's mostly for marketing people to get basic metrics on how people are using their websites. And I've seen people try to use this to get visibility in what's going on. I've also seen it being wrong by factors of 10. I've seen it misconfigured. I've seen people not know how to use it very, very well. So, what I find is very often when people think about product metrics, they look at what they have and they try to use that to define what makes a product great, and it typically is missing the mark. And ultimately, it's about revenue. I mean, at the end of the day, we're in this to make money, folks. At least I am. So I'm trying to create products that are driving revenue, and independent of, all of us I think are in business, then you probably are as well. And what's interesting is what revenue means to any one of us could be very, very different. I'm a SaaS business, so my monetize based on actually my customers' usage. That's a unique model. A lot of SaaS businesses basically monetize on their users per user per month. There's ad-generated models where engagement and the quality of engagement actually drives a lot of their revenue. Obviously, B2C models are direct-to-consumer purchase models as well. There's utility-building models where the more efficient a product is and the more you can yield, the better it is. But it's ultimately about revenue. The challenge with revenue is that it's a lagging indicator. So by the time you lose it, it is probably too late. Sorry, if that's what your measure is, it's not enough to actually take action. So I'm going to share 5 metrics or 5 proxy measures we've seen for success. And it's not that all 5 together are going to work for your product, but one or more of those 5 are probably among good indicators, good leading indicators of whether your product's being successful or not. I'm going to walk through these a little more depth. So first is breadth of use, which is generally speaking how many users are using this, how many are active. In a B2B world, if you're looking at a bunch of different accounts, you can kind of look at each account and say, how many users do I have active? And very, very simply, there's a lot of things we see. Obviously, things like under 2 active users, it's really, really, really bad. The average person stays in a job for at most 18 months. That means if you only have 1 or 2 active users, that person's probably going to leave that job and you're left with no one as a champion. I've been in the B2B SaaS world for a long time. Closing lost or not renewing someone because you lost a champion is almost always one of the top reasons why you will not renew someone. So making sure that you continue having more than 2 users logging into an account generally means that account's a lot healthier. Obviously, generally speaking, the more the merrier. The more users you have in an account, obviously a stronger foothold. So that's a good measure for a lot of different products. Frequency is another one. I hear this all the time from customers. If I never use your product, how valuable is it to me? If I never log into it, is it valuable? Probably not. Again, this isn't all products, but we see this as very, very typical in the B2C world. Everyone's heard of DAO, WOW, and MAU, daily active users, weekly active users, monthly active users. This generally is are measures for frequency. How frequently are people coming back? We usually think more frequent is better. And I agree. I mean, at the end of the day, if a customer isn't coming to my product at least once a month, that's probably really, really bad. I want them generally coming in every single day. I mean, the products that we prioritize, the ones we really like to use, the ones we're going in every single day, right? And we had to choose where to put our dollars. We're going to choose to spend money on things that we use on a regular basis versus an irregular basis. Now, the challenge is this isn't a one-size-fits-all problem. And when you look at any analytic, whether it's breadth or frequency, understanding segments are really, really key. And segments could be everything from type of user. A lot of products have different types of users, administrative users, read-only users. Understanding that a read-only user may have different characteristics than an administrative user. And an admin may get in, set it up, and never come back again, and maybe that's okay. So the problem also is if taking any of these metrics and looking at it too narrowly, you're actually going to potentially make a bad decision. So understanding dynamics, understanding who's supposed to be using it, how often, and for what reasons is really, really important. Enterprise versus SMB. New customers may have wildly different behaviors than existing customers. So breaking all of your users into segments helps to get an actually much more intelligent lens of whether you're successfully addressing their needs or not. One of the interesting measures I like is depth. It's actually one of the inspirations for starting the company. It's in the product world, you spend all this time building things. We all brag about the number of features on our website, and then you come to realize that people are using like 10 to 15% of your overall features. That just sucks, and it's demoralizing. And it feels like a complete, utter waste of our time. So understanding what features are getting used, how broad or how deep people are going into our products is just a good proxy for a product's decision making. Like if I'm deciding to build something that thing's never being used, probably wasn't the most valuable thing to build in the first place, right? So understanding what features you have, understanding which percentage of the product gets regular use is really, really key. What's also important is that understanding which features are the ones pulling people back into your product. Those are the things you have to be very, very careful with. For example, some of us have freemium models. If you take the one feature that gets people back into your product and you, for example, make it free, it could lead to a lot of people downgrading to a free version of your product, right? So understanding what I call the value drivers. If we have 100 features, there's probably 5 to 10 value drivers that actually matter, that people really care about. And that's something that you have to know yourself, but you can also measure and see what are the top 5 features. What are the features most used by our core audience? I mean, for us, we have identified 5 right now. And those 5 are not just product key features, but our customer success team is also armed with them. Like we know on our dashboards if someone's not doing one of these 5 things, that gets flagged. We consider them at risk. We can basically work really hard to get them more involved with those things. So yeah, when we look at things, obviously if someone's using one key feature, that's probably not enough. Healthy for us is using the full breadth of the platform. That's how you maintain a strength in an account. But all of this may not matter. One of the great examples that I think about in product is tax software. Tax software you need to use once per year. You only need, generally, if it's personal tax software like TurboTax, there's only really one person doing it. Frankly, none of us like doing taxes or tax software, so the amount of time I spend in the product probably is not indicative of success. Efficiency is really the metric. The ultimate goal is submitting my tax form. And even the depth of use, at the end of the day, if I, for example, don't sell any stock that year, there's a whole section of TurboTax I won't even see. So me not using that feature doesn't mean that I'm not a valuable, successful customer. It means I'm just not using that more advanced capability. So it's not a best proxy measure for understanding success in that product. But efficiency and usability really is. So early when we started, one of the key things that I think about is what's the shortest time to deliver a key value? So if I want to get in and, for example, submit my 1040, what's the fastest, most efficient way to do that? And are you measuring that? And are you making that better over time, or is it getting worse? What's the average time across your segments to complete key activities. That ultimately is what leads to frustration. If someone's trying to get in and do something that they bought you to do, they hired your product to do, and they simply can't do it without getting stuck or blocked, or they can't figure it out, that's generally speaking failure in my book. So understanding a funnel, and a lot of people think of funnels in terms of marketing conversion funnels, but I've coined this term feature funnel, where if you have some sort of workflow, understanding how far people get through that workflow before they drop off, or what percentage, just a key measure for understanding whether it's actually delivering value or not. And this is an area we actually have done a lot of work with ad tech companies. When I started the company, I never thought we would sell to ad tech companies, but it turns out setting up an advertising campaign is painful. There's a lot of steps. It's generally, that is what's in the way of getting revenue, is setting up the campaign, so it's kind of important. And understanding efficiency through that model is a great way to, frankly, create more ad campaigns and get more revenue. So it's actually a really key measure of success. And here's just some key benchmarks. Obviously, you want a high completion rate. I think these are all quantitative measures. Generally, I think qualitative measures are also just as important. So what's my customer satisfaction? What's my customer loyalty? What are they saying when I ask my customers about my product? Net Promoter Score is something that has been around for a while. It's, I guess Bain introduced it in the early 2000s. And we see it a lot in actually consumer software companies, or consumer companies in general. People know their Net Promoter Score, and there's lots of research and benchmarking studies around it. And it's very, very simple, and you've all asked this question, and asked on a scale of 0 to 10, would you recommend this company or solution? And based on that, it essentially takes the percentage promoters subtracted by the detractors, and it gives you a score. And what's nice about this is that there's a number of industry benchmarks. You can see, independent of what industry you're in, you can determine whether you're good or bad on a range. So it's nice because it helps kind of level set, and you can get, you can set a goal for yourselves, and there's lots of studies that say this correlates to revenue. And I mean, at the end of the day, if one of your customers isn't going to recommend you, that's not success in the product world, right? So I think it's a great way to marry and augment your quantitative measures with something qualitative to get a better sense of how you're doing as a product. Other things, just asking people, how is this working? These types of surveys are also really, really critical. So I kind of look at any one of these proxy measures as a door, and you can kind of pick which door you want to go through, and you have to decide for your own product what is the right measure of success. As I said, in tax software, it may be efficiency. It may be a combination of efficiency and satisfaction. It probably is. If you're an ad tech product, again, efficiency is another one. But if you're just a straight up SaaS product, I mean, breadth, depth, and frequency are typically the 3 measures that we look at for a quality SaaS product. But that's for B2B. But you got to decide what success means. Focus on specific goals. The other coaching I give a lot to teams is they say, where do I get started with measuring my product? I always ask, well, what's your goal? What do you want to do with it? Maybe it's they want to launch a new feature and they want to see how successful it is. Maybe they want to increase frequency. Maybe they see that people aren't coming there back. They're considered not must-have. So maybe frequency is the problem. But independent of your problem, pick a goal and start adapting over time. And this is one of my favorite quotes. And people, if we have data, let's look at it. If all we have are opinions, let's go with mine. So definitely recommend getting data if you can and you want to make some decisions. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So the concept of product as a job, chief product officer and that type of thing, is something that seems to have emerged in the startup world. As you go from startups to Fortune 1000 companies, are you finding that people need to be evangelized on the concept of you should have somebody who's actually in charge of the product?
In general, yes. And I see this varies across a lot of different companies. And I guess the fact that I come from a product role means I'm kind of high on chief product officers, and I'm also high on them reporting directly as a C-level position to the CEO. What I find is that when you have a CTO separate from a CPO, it creates this natural tension where you have one person whose job is to kind of be driving the business, driving the strategy, and then the CTO is more focused on how it's done and also making sure that, I call it the ilities. There's high quality, high performance, scalability. And in general, a good CTO says no a lot. I mean, it's kind of what I want out of my CTOs. I mean, they're going to be pushing back constantly, but I want someone that's creating a lot of pressure for them. So I see a lot of benefit if organizations can adopt that dual-prong model.
Very good. All right, so I'm going to open up to questions in a minute, but tell us a little bit about the company, the history. I mean, not to the North Carolina thing, but it is interesting, right? I mean, it's the fact that there are fantastic companies coming up all over the country now. I guess tell us about the history.
Yeah, so we were founded back in 2013. Prior to founding the company, I was the VP of product of Rally Software, which is basically a publicly traded software as a service, a B2B company. Honestly, the inspiration for the product came from my experience there. I was trying to get more data on how we're doing as a product organization, and every time I asked questions, it took another month of engineering time. Instrumenting the product, putting in something like Tableau. I hired a data scientist. He constantly was missing data, had incomplete data. So I was like, this can't be that difficult of a problem. Why don't we just focus on capturing everything and delivering it back in a consumable way? So that was the initial impetus for the idea, and it's kind of taken off. So we've since 2013, we're started as a small seed round, 5-person company, and I think as of today we're 149 people, and we do have offices actually here, California, and Israel now. So just recently became global with an acquisition. So yeah, a lot of change.
Fantastic. Do we have questions?
As your clients have used your software, right, and they have some experience and more maturity around it, how have their questions changed? What do they want to know more about?
Yeah, it starts with just getting a quick baseline of how you're doing. I mean, it's shocking the number of companies I meet that they have no idea. I mean, they even use the term flying blind. So at first, just getting a baseline for what's actually happening in your product, how many people are using it, how frequently they're using it. And then you start getting to more second-order questions, which is, again, the efficiency issue, or what are my key features and are people doing it? Or starting to correlate outcomes or loyalty, for example, net promoter score to usage. Maybe they see some patterns. Oh, for example, everyone who's a promoter is using this feature and people that are detractors are not. Or vice versa. There could be dark spots in your product, things that you have not given love to. I know we all have it. If we have products, there's areas that we've ignored for a period of time, and does that actually translate into lower loyalty scores? So those are the kinds of questions, we're kind of second order questions we see over time.
Who are the biggest buyers of their software? Is it the customer success guys or the CPO?
Typically CPO. I think ultimately we started very narrowly focused on that persona, and ultimately the product organization has the ability to impact basically everyone. So I think it's hugely important to focus on that persona. We have customer success people that use it, but at the end of the day, you're really just helping inform their individual activities on a per account basis. And I just think it's a lower leverage department for us.
All right, last.
They're making you walk for this one. Exercise.
How do you think this happens?
What kind of effort does it take to instrument the product with your tools?
Ours are, generally speaking, the out-of-box stuff is really, really simple. We kind of take a different approach than other solutions that require a lot of instrumentation. You just drop us in and we capture everything. But I mean, if you want to do surveys and other things, obviously there could be more effort. But generally speaking, our approach has always been require far less out of developers, put it in and capture everything.
All right. On this note, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.